Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Have you ever wondered how secret societies of Ivy League schools operate so far from the eye of public scrutiny? Indeed, this practice appears to go back hundreds of years. Today, we will examine the current narrative history associated with the secret societies founded within the colleges of North America. We will also focus on the roots of one of the most inconceivable of these secret societies, known as Skull and Bones, whose members have impacted American industry, politics, and banking for the last 200 years. As this is a blend of the current narrative and fringe theory, take everything we discuss today with a grain of salt. Secret Ivy League societies began as what were called senior societies, which are broadly labeled as student organizations that recruit juniors and seniors as members. Senior societies are designated as landed, meaning they own a building or tomb, or non-landed, meaning they don't. According to Baird's Manual of American College Fraternities, which was published in 1883, the oldest secret society is Phi Beta Kappa, founded at the College of William and Mary in 1776. In Dartmouth, the first senior society was known as the Society of Social Friends, and they first met in 1783. However, the one college that appears to have more of these secret senior societies than any other is Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, with over 40 that are active. Beyond this, Yale University is also home to some of the most notorious senior societies of all time, including what is said to be their oldest secret society, known as Skull and Bones. This was quickly followed by the equally as mysterious and ominous Scroll and Key, which was founded in 1841. By definition, the first senior society, or secret society, was also an honor society, the earlier mentioned Phi Beta Kappa Society at the College of William and Mary. With the first recorded meeting on December 5th, 1776, the Phi Beta Kappa has gone on to produce 17 U.S. presidents: John Quincy Adams, Franklin Pierce, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, Chester Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Calvin Coolidge, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. With the founding of Phi Beta Kappa, the tradition was begun of naming American secret societies in these colleges after the initial letters of a secret Greek motto. In this case, Phi Beta Kappa is code for love of learning is the guide of life. But wait, what if I told you a group of top hat wearing Freemasons actually created a secret society at the College of William and Mary some 26 years earlier, all but erased by modern history? In 1750, we have the first recorded meeting of the Flat Hat Club, originally known simply by the moniker the FHC. This would indeed make the Flat Hat Club the oldest secret society in a college of all time. But the story becomes even more intertwined. The Flat Hat Club met at a location known as the Raleigh Tavern, which was considered the largest and most robust tavern of early colonial Virginia. Built at some time before the year 1735, without much given about the architectural history, this is both a well-known object and also rather obscure. This tavern was destroyed by fire shortly before the Civil War, before it was photographed or well documented, and we're told this fire was actually set purposefully. However, quite a written history remains. The Raleigh Tavern, after being founded, was said to have changed hands multiple times. Yet in 1751 and 1768 respectively, it was used as the official banquet hall for the receiving of the royal governors. Those festivities held in the massive banqueting hall of the Raleigh Tavern known as the Apollo Room. We're told even by the American Revolution, the Raleigh Tavern was considered an institution and one of the most important structures in all of Virginia. The House of Burgesses had even met multiple times in the Raleigh Tavern, including after it was dissolved in 1769 and again in 1774. Thomas Jefferson also frequently held secret patriot meetings in the tavern, which is wild to think about given at the same time the British were frequently within these tavern walls. It's also almost as if the secrets of American history could be found within these walls. But alas, why I mention this historic tavern that was destroyed purposefully in 1859 is that in 1750, this was the site for the founding of the Flat Hat Club. We're also told the most famous member of the Flat Hat Club was none other than third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Again, illustrating the somewhat secretive nature of early American history. When questioned about the Flat Hat Club much later in his life, not only was Jefferson taken aback that someone had knowledge of the club, but he actually claimed, and I quote, "When I was a student of William and Mary College, there existed a small society called the FHC," end quote. Franklin then goes on to never mention the society by its full name, and he claims that there were only 6 members in the society, including himself, concluding his interview by saying he assumes the society doesn't exist anymore, and while he was part of it, he says the society was of very little use. Letters revealed later in history would showcase that Thomas Jefferson actually had a much more intimate knowledge of the inner workings and ongoing activities of the Flat Hat Club, possibly serving as a benefactor. But the accepted history gets even stranger. In 1773, the Please Don't Ask secret society was founded as the second secret society at the College of William and Mary. Known as PDA, Please Don't Ask was a direct imitation of the Flat Hat Club. In 1776, when John Heath was repeatedly rejected from Please Don't Ask, he formed his own secret society, taking on a Greek persona which became known as Phi Beta Kappa. Do you know where Phi Beta Kappa met? The Raleigh Tavern, in the exact Apollo Room where American history was being rewritten. We also have the secret societies that were meeting there as well. And what ties all of this together? Freemasonry. We're told nearly every original member of the Flat Hat Club was a prominent Freemason or would go on to become one, besides Jefferson, who somehow avoided this label throughout his whole life. The Raleigh Tavern was known as the hub of Freemasonry in colonial Virginia, so it comes as no surprise that the spiritual successor to the Flat Hat Club would be born in the very mysterious tavern owned and run by the Masons that had itself played such a critical role in early North American history. With the modern history books seemingly all giving credit to Phi Beta Kappa as the first secret society, I thought it was necessary to link this history to something even earlier, something that could be tied to the old world, to the flat hats that we see in all of the photographs. However, we are told it was Phi Beta Kappa that was passed on to other Ivy League schools, with chapters eventually opening up at Yale in 1780 and Harvard in 1781. This would make Phi Beta Kappa the oldest secret society at Yale. But I digress. By this time, Phi Beta Kappa had secret hand gestures, signals, and sayings to identify other members out in public without appearing suspicious. Truly mind-boggling, given we're told Phi Beta Kappa had, at most at this time, a few hundred members throughout the entire North America, unless Phi Beta Kappa was actually an offshoot of a much larger, much more widespread organization. In part, Phi Beta Kappa is given credit for bringing some now well-known writers to national limelight, including Ralph Waldo Emerson. By 1883, when the United Chapters of Phi Beta Kappa were established, there were 25 chapters. Now let's talk a little bit about the inner circle. Remember how Phi Beta Kappa was a rather small number of people, even with all the graduates, and yet we have specific sections of society seemingly built to cater to this group. That may be due in part to the fact that all secret societies across North America appeared to be auditions for Phi Beta Kappa. We're told Phi Beta Kappa, being the most illustrious secret order in North American academia, gave out awards every year to members of other, lesser known and less prestigious societies. These lower classes or lower societies mimicked Phi Beta Kappa, with those who won the Phi Beta Kappa awards often having their members selected to then join Phi Beta Kappa. In the year 1832, 3 lower-ranking secret societies of Yale came into a heated, weeks-long dispute over the Phi Beta Kappa awards of that year. These societies were Linonia, Brothers in Unity, and the Calliopean Society. Again, here is where we see the real symbolism begin. Unhappy with the Phi Beta Kappa monopoly on essentially running society after graduation, 2 young men, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft, progenitor to the Taft political dynasty, founded the Order of the Skull and Bones at Yale University. This order sought to genuinely subdue the political power associated with the Phi Beta Kappa Society and its members. However, the first official depiction of Skull and Bones does not come until a brief description of the society was given in 1871, almost 40 years after it was said to have been founded. In this, the author, Lyman Bagg, what a name, describes the continued function of Skull and Bones as one of the greatest mysteries of American college, an almost mythical force which appears to be perpetuated by the college itself, with the cloud of secrecy surrounding Skull and Bones being one of the greatest driving factors for people attending, visiting, and discussing Yale University. This is all happening around the same time that Yale began a pushback on the Industrial Revolution and embracing new technology and ideas, instead doubling down on their focus on a theological background for all degrees. However, by 1886, these thoughts were ousted, and Yale was finally nearly completely opened up to the public for the first time. However, the secret societies, as you may have guessed it, remained relatively secret. Beginning with Taft and Russell in 1832, Skull and Bones, also known as Order 322 or simply the Bones, has elected exactly 15 members every year to join the society. Even with nearly all of its early practices unknown, Skull and Bones is still a rather strange piece of history. Its members worship Eulogia, a fictional goddess supposedly dedicated to elegance, but whose name seems to indicate a eulogy or something associated with negative. The society's badge is a gold piece that consists of a skull that is supported by crossed bones, with the number 322 tattooed on the lower jaw. The real mystery, and again, this is all just theory, but it comes with the association of the number 322 or 322 with ancient history and its belief amongst the members of this society. Here are a few of the more outlandish theories that have been proposed. First, we're told a theory suggests that it was Germans and not the British who founded the first college secret societies, bringing the concept to America, with 322 standing for founded in 1832, being the 3-2, and the second 2 representing Skull and Bones as the second coming of this German secret society. Another theory suggests that the first secret societies, as we mentioned, arose in Virginia within the Raleigh Tavern, which was known as a hub for the Freemasons. This theory suggests the founders of Skull and Bones are referencing what was known as Lodge of America number 322, located in Suffolk, Virginia, which was considered to be a possible meeting site and secret financer of this society. This goes hand in hand with the concept or theory that secret societies in colleges were founded as a way to vet and prepare members for entry into larger, even more secretive orders, and that these elder societies, like the Masons, used organizations like Phi Beta Kappa and Skull and Bones to indoctrinate their new members. However, the most satisfying yet wildly outlandish of all the theories is that Skull and Bones members believe that 322 is associated with the manipulation of the timeline and hidden knowledge. Some suggest the belief is that the year 1832, when the society was founded, was believed by the members to actually be 322 AD, basically admitting to the phantom timeline, or a rapid addition of history that was fabricated to cover missing years. However, another side to this timeline 322 suggests that 322 BC is the year that the most famous orator of Greece, known as Demosthenes, passed away. This implies that Skull and Bones rejects the current calendar and instead sees the current year of 2025 plus 322 years, so roughly 2347. Again, this is all just theory, but there has been some literature that has been released throughout the years that supports different parts of these claims. Most of the theories regarding the number 322 can be seen as possible plausible deniability. Skull and Bones has a reputation for stealing keepsakes from other Yale societies, other campus buildings, and even other Ivy League schools. Society members of Skull and Bones reportedly called the practice crooking, and they sought to steal or hide the most expensive, famous, and rare artifacts. This included, throughout history, skulls of alleged giants and presidents, seemingly adding to the mystery behind their name, Skull and Bones. This all occurred at a time when America was unearthing and uncovering indigenous burial mounds all throughout the landscape at breakneck speeds, with many of the artifacts uncovered going to the Ivy League schools, going to the secret societies by way of the graduates who were in control or working at the Smithsonian Museum. However, I truly wouldn't be doing the history of Yale and the secret societies justice without mentioning how corrupt some of these practices appeared to have been throughout history. In 1856, Skull and Bones incorporated as the Russell Trust Association, named after one of the founders. The Russell Trust Association, which is considered to be a nonprofit, is in control of all endowments and property owned by the Skull and Bones Secret Society. And as of 2020, this includes an entire island known as Deer Island, which lays strategically on the border between Canada and the United States. And we're told Deer Island was once heavily fortified, or at least it appears that way. But now it is a rarely visited retreat for past graduates. I wonder what secrets Deer Island truly hides. Leaked Skull and Bones legend also suggests it was none other than Prescott Bush, father of H.W. Bush and grandfather of George W., who actually dug up and extracted the skull of Geronimo from his burial site. This act was said to have transferred or imbued immense power to the Bush family in a seemingly spiritual act of robbery. The Skull and Bones Society have a headquarters, which is known colloquially as the Tomb. The Skull and Bones Hall, or the Tomb, is a Gothic, windowless building on High Street, just off of campus, which was believed to be the site of a former indigenous mound. Beneath this Skull and Bones tomb is also rumored to be the resting place of the rest of the bones of Geronimo, as well as the skulls of former President Martin Van Buren and Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa, all individuals or entire histories that the Skull and Bones Society looked to obscure. At different points throughout history, bonesmen, or graduates of Skull and Bones, as they are called, have had control over the fortunes of the Rockefeller family, the Carnegies, and the Fords. Skull and Bones have had members rise through the ranks and obtain the highest offices in the Council on Foreign Relations, as well as becoming presidents of powerful media corporations, such as Time, and of course, also 3 presidents of the United States, being William Howard Taft of the Taft Dynasty and the 2 Bushes. One Harvard alum was quoted as saying in the 1900s he intended to send his son to Yale because, and I quote, "In real life, all the Harvard men are working for the Yale men," end quote. Skull and Bones' membership roster included some of America's most powerful families of all time: the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Fords, the Phelps, the Pillsburys, the Walkers, the Whitneys, the Tafts, the Bushes. These were all bonesmen. With one single exception, every Yale president from roughly 1850 through roughly 1950 was a member of Skull and Bones. This tradition took hold completely in 1886 following the ousting of conservative leadership at Yale. Many now consider that the new leadership and the new history of Yale was orchestrated behind the scenes by Skull and Bones, as Timothy Dwight V, the president of Yale from 1886 through 1898, was the first to truly open the college campus to the public, the first to allow detailed photographs of the college, but most of all, he was the first president of Yale to embrace the Industrial Revolution and focus on new aspects of education that became quintessential to the country's growth. It was no coincidence then that it was Skull and Bones, the secret society of Yale, who ushered in this overarching change in America. It's like Skull and Bones inherited this campus and were able to rewrite or reinterpret the history to their liking. Furthermore, Johns Hopkins University was founded by a graduate and leading member of Skull and Bones, Daniel Court Gilman. Family ties indeed. Gilman's uncle was the treasurer of Yale College. Gilman's other uncle was the leading professor of Yale College. Gilman's cousin edited the newspaper which published Yale's articles, and this cousin, a member of Scroll and Key, encouraged Gilman to try to gain entrance to a secret society upon his admittance to Yale. Gilman attended Yale in the early 1850s, being accepted to Skull and Bones. Gilman's best friends, also in Skull and Bones, were Timothy Dwight, mentioned earlier, the first bonesman to become president of Yale, and Andrew D. White, who would go on to be the founder and president of Cornell College, another Ivy League school. Gilman graduated Yale, and as a Skull and Bones member, was awarded passage to St. Petersburg, Russia, and then Berlin for future studies. Again, This leans more towards the Germanic origin of these secret societies, but I digress. While in St. Petersburg, the former Tartary, Gilman became enamored with the study of scientific research and medical care. The leader of Yale's scientific school was also, by chance, a member of Gilman's family. Again, Gilman is somehow related to seemingly everyone who held power in this narrative at Yale. However, the story doesn't exactly add up. In 1871, Gilman left Yale for California to become president of the University of California. Yet, while in California, Andrew White, who would later go on to found the College of Cornell, who was a bonesman, contacted Gilman and told him that the wealthiest old merchant in Baltimore, Maryland, was about to pass away. His name? Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins then passed on Christmas Eve of 1873 in his 78th year. Within months of his passing, the University Board in Baltimore, which was founded and trusted with Hopkins's fortune, began developing a university, which they aptly named Johns Hopkins. By 1874, they again reached out to Gilman, asking him to take the role of president of what would become one of America's most prestigious health institutions. And all of this was said to have begun in the tomb of Skull and Bones, a secret society of Yale University over 40 years earlier. Between Skull and Bones and Phi Beta Kappa alone, 20 of the 45 different men who have served as president of the United States have come from just those two secret societies. Members of Skull and Bones in the 19th century were allegedly from families with deep ties to burgeoning industries like railroads, banking, and shipping. These industries were crucial to America's rise to a world power, and some theorists now suggest that Skull and Bones acted as a kind of brain trust to align these powerful industries with political power. And to see more about this, look at the Russell Trust Association that I mentioned earlier. The supposed use of symbolism within the founding of these Yale secret societies also appears to suggest that Skull and Bones was not just about networking, but also about recruiting individuals into an elite, almost secretive power structure that operated behind the scenes of American politics and business. Theories also suggest that Skull and Bones members, many of whom came from wealthy industrial and financial families in both the North and the South, were able to profit after the Civil War, pushing for policies that aligned with their business interests and made the conclusion of the war profitable to key-ranking members of these secret societies. Again, these are all just theories, but hopefully today I began to scratch the surface of the secret society conundrum that appears at the prestigious colleges of America, our focus today being Yale and the Skull and Bones. If you enjoyed this video or enjoyed this type of content, definitely hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you're not already, as I have hundreds of other videos just like this one. And if you want to reach out to me more directly or support my channel, there is a link in my YouTube profile. I would really appreciate that. But I want to say thank you all for being part of the channel. Honestly, researching this history is one of the most important things in my life, and I'm so grateful that there are others out there that also see the importance in looking at this history from a slightly different perspective. So thank you again, and I can't wait to talk to you all on the next video.